Hello everyone, and welcome to the next in my series of Mindful Meets. I hope you're all feeling very well today. So I'm delighted to welcome both on the podcast and on YouTube, if you happen to be watching, my guest today, Will Shotton, who is the founder and creator of the water kefir product, Tibico. And at the end of this conversation, we're going to talk to you about how you can get some of this product, how you can get some water kefir in your life with a special promotional code, which Will has very kindly given to my YouTube viewers. But more about that later when we hear a little bit more from Will about his incredible story to setting up and creating this amazing product, and more about what the product is. So Will, hello, you're very welcome.
Hello everybody.
So water kefir, just give us a little sort of précis to start with for those listening or watching that really don't have any idea what it is. What on earth is water kefir?
Okay, so the water kefir is a fermented drink, and the process of creating a live fermented drink is the necessity to be able to take initial water kefir grains, which you can buy, you can make it at home, and then fermenting or using the grains to actually ferment cane sugar to be able to initially create what we call a primary fermentation, so a primary ferment. That takes us probably 2 to 3 days, because we have developed a very unique process by which we use a low temperature and long-term fermentation process to be able to maximize the potency of our bacterial profile.
So the kefir then is a live bacteria, essentially.
Kefir is a word of which a lot of people use in a lot of products. So you can have milk kefir, you can have water kefir. Yeah. The milk kefirs are very common now in most supermarkets.
Yes, I think people are more familiar with the milk kefir, aren't they? And they sort of think, oh, yes, I can drink that as a yogurt substitute, or I can have some on my muesli or my porridge or something.
Exactly.
But the water, perhaps less familiar, I think.
Exactly. And with the water kefir is that where we are very different is that we actually then utilize our primary ferment to be able to then take local fruits, which we source within Herefordshire, and we ferment those fruits down into a very potent probiotic drink, which is then carbonated. And I've got one here.
Oh, here's one you prepared earlier.
Which is then bottled.
Yeah.
I suppose that the food industry, for a lot of people, is very difficult to plow through.
Yeah, to navigate. And there's so much marketing, isn't there? And there's so much that sort of comes under this, oh, this is really healthy for you, you have to have it every day. And it's a real minefield, I think, for people. So,
exactly. Yes. And people's understanding, and also which is reinforced by so many of the new sciences which are coming through in the marketplace, is that you go into a supermarket and you'll see a raft of yogurts, for example, and everything's called yogurt. So just like kefir, they've got yogurt, but there's very, very few yogurts on the shelf which are actually a live yogurt. So they will use live bacteria to be able to produce it, but then they then pasteurize it, because the supermarkets demand a much longer shelf life. So what are you drinking? Not really much at all.
I see. So although it might start off with that scenario, by the time it gets to us and inside our guts, and we're going to talk about this gut health and your own story, it actually doesn't have the benefit of that original product.
Completely. And also you'll find within the water kefir market that where we actually then ferment fresh fruit, and you get all the benefits not only of the probiotics, but you're getting the minerals and the vitamins and the other sort of amino acids, etc., which you get, and the digestive enzymes which you're getting from the fruit. I would probably say that all the competitors in the market who I'm aware of, they will produce a fine primary ferment, and then they will just add flavorings to it, and they will add artificial sweeteners to it. So that, oh yes, that tastes quite nice, but there is a certain amount of dubious claims as to what the benefit of the product is, because it's so new.
Interesting. And that leads us actually beautifully into what the benefit is. And I think one of the best ways to perhaps explain that, or at least give an example, is by telling us a little bit about how you actually came to be where you are. And it was through personal experience, wasn't it? Ill health. And
yeah, I came out of a very dark place, and I would think that the majority of people who would listen to this could understand and assimilate with working hard, high-power job, running a public company, traveling 30,000 miles a year all over the UK, living on Ginster's pasties and lots of other convenience foods, because you're just busy.
Yeah.
And that over a period of time, you then have got the driving along the acid refluxes, so you're always driving along with antacids in a box in the car and in your coat, and you just assume that is just a way of life. You just accept that those levels of stress and the digestive inadequacies which you have as an individual, that they're not going to really have an impact on you as a person. And that it got me to a stage whereby although I was going to the gym 3 times a week, although I was swimming, although I was cycling, although I was running, that is not the solution to be able to get a complete mind and body well-being plan. And so, although I'm putting a little bit back, is that my diet was taking a lot away, and that I was rushed into a hospital close to Liverpool on the Wirral, where my blood pressure was close to 200. My eyes were actually bleeding because the blood vessels in my eyes could not actually withstand the pressure. And clearly I had to do something with my life. What really escalated even further was that I was then given a full top to toe. I was also given an endoscope because I was virtually living on a box of antacids a day, only to find that the esophagus was raw, and I was diagnosed with a carcinoma in situ, first stage of esophageal cancer. And all of a sudden, you have a life-changing moment that actually then says your health is far more important than anything else, because you can't be there for your family, you can't be there for all sorts of things, is that if you're not just looking after yourself. And it was that moment in time. There was lots of other things going on which made it even worse, but it was at that moment in time that fortunately I'd spent a long time in the food industry. I also had studied food process engineering. I'd also studied microbiology. So any information which I started to read, any white papers which I started to read, books which I read, is that at least I wasn't on the first rung of the ladder. I could actually pick up and understand a lot of information which was available in the marketplace. But I had to, before seeking further help from the hospital, I had to understand, and I had to understand why I got it, and I had to understand why me.
Yes, and at that time, was there a sense that you didn't want to just accept orthodox treatments, that you really wanted to explore what was actually the best way to treat yourself? Yeah,
absolutely, completely. And I bought a couple of books, and for the first time in my life, it was a shock to be able to read some of the new science that was then saying that we are 70% bacteria.
Yeah.
Thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, how on earth can I be 70% bacteria?
Yeah.
The numbers go from 70% up to 90%, which is scary and very, very difficult to actually comprehend that.
And I think also because on the TV, you know, we're sort of throwing these things, or kills 99% of bacteria, so they sort of have such a bad press, don't they? And in fact,
you don't want to be killing the bacteria. You should be taking the bacteria in to be able to increase the potency of your immune system. And so I got in touch eventually with Dr. McGregor. I'll just, can you edit it, and so that I can just go and get this book?
Yes, we're just going to pause.
Back again.
Here we go. So we're back again with the book.
So the first book that I researched on the internet, and excuse the coffee stains on the top of it because it's always by my bedside.
It's well read, yes.
Actually, Dr. Greger on how not to die. After the sort of the first 3 or 4 chapters, I wondered why the human race was actually still in existence at all. But it was that actually changed my life, and that eventually I got in touch with Dr. Greger in the States. He is attached to Cornell University, and probably after maybe 40 emails, he eventually gave me a little bit of his time. And it was very simple, as the answer was, go and get as much sauerkraut, live sauerkraut, as you possibly can, and just start eating it. Eat it for breakfast, eat it for lunch, eat it for tea, and if you wake up in the middle of the night, have some sauerkraut as well. And of course, not particularly palatable, so I started making my own. But on a very serious note, what became almost strange was that I started feeling different. Now, different in inverted commas, but I started feeling different. My energy levels started to increase. The acid reflux in my body virtually disappeared. And that there was something going on, but there's no way I could fully understand it until I read more and more books. And the next real book which I read was the China Study. And the China Study's been going on since the 1970s. The reasons why it's called the China Study is because you have a pocket of 1 billion people, and that unlike the Western communities where we have a lot of ethnicities and all sorts of backgrounds living amongst us, within China, it's a very, very close population, and so it's easier to study. And although the book is about that thick and it's so boring, but the outcome of it was
Apologies to the authors, but yes.
after papers and papers and papers and papers and studies, what it was showing in China was that virtually no cancers and no lifestyle illnesses existed up until the 1980s, 1970s, 1980s. But as the population then started to move from a high agricultural community living off a very, very subsistence life, and then moving to the cities and living off McDonald's and Burger King and lots of processed foods, is that the escalation in such a short period of time of these illnesses within China, it virtually proved that it's a lifestyle, that it was a lifestyle problem. And so with all of that in my head, and then reading more books and more books and more white papers, and there are so many white papers now coming out and research papers. I think there's something like 30 a week coming out on gut health today, not then. And that it was very, very clear that I had to learn more about bacteria. I had to learn a lot more about gut health, and that I had to also understand why I was actually getting better. And so a further endoscope, having lived on sauerkraut for about 4 months, and I was buying natural yogurts or live yogurts, and I was buying some kefirs, is that I went back to the hospital, had a further endoscope, and the result of that was, this is extremely strange, because the actual expected expansion of the cancers had stopped, and that they could see the rawness within the esophagus had virtually disappeared.
It's just incredible, and I just think that is, I mean, it's just so telling, and that's what really struck me. So I should explain to everyone that you and I met completely by chance, really.
Yes.
In that I was in a local pub in Ross-on-Wye, which is local to both of us. I didn't want to have alcohol that night, and I said, "Oh, what have you got that's non-alcoholic?" And they had a elderflower cordial, and that's a bit sweet because I try and keep my glucose, down. And they said, "Oh, we've got this new drink in, water kefir." And of course, I knew a little bit about kefir, but more about milk kefir. And I tried it, and it was so fantastic that I went on the website, and then I think I couldn't get a code to work or something, I can't remember. And we had a little conversation, and then I came round, didn't I, to the bar and met you, and you started talking about your story, and that's how we got connected. And that's, why I really wanted you to come on to explain it. So you're at this point then where you've now gone back to the specialist, and this apparent miracle has happened, in that it's reversed and it's stopped, and it's all getting better.
It was dramatic.
Yeah.
And to also, because I was doing lots of exercise, I don't smoke, moderate amount of alcohol, but it was, there was just something which felt wonderful, but I couldn't sort of put my finger on it. And that I then started making my own sauerkrauts. I started then making milk kefirs, and then making some sort of smoothies utilizing the milk kefir. But for me, my mind, because of my background, because of my past, was then saying, well, I've got to get this message out. I mean, I can't tell the message. So I'll put the message in a bottle and I'll send it out to people.
There's a song there somewhere, I think.
It is, yeah. I just thought it came through. then I then started to play with water kefir grains, and it was okay making it sort of on the bench in the garage, or making it in the kitchen. But I knew where I wanted to get to, but I couldn't get there. And that process took 2 years. Because if I liken what I was doing then to what most of the other products on the market do, I was doing a primary ferment, and then I was putting some fruit juice into it, or I was putting some flavorings into it, or I was putting some artificial sweeteners into it to be able to say, yeah, okay, that tastes all right.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't go out almost into a commercial marketplace and actually try to con somebody. So I worked and worked and worked at being able to ferment fresh fruit. Some fruits, the flavors come through and they taste fabulous. And then you've then got other fruits which they tend to lose their flavor completely because of the way that the bacteria, attack them and remove the sweetness. Because
that's really interesting, and I suppose that's very much a trial and error, isn't it? Because you don't know until you've done it. Yeah.
So if you take a mango, if it was a fresh mango, you'd think, oh my goodness, this tastes really good. Take the sugar out of it, and it's completely tasteless.
But it's a very high sugar fruit. So with the same thing, so I'm just thinking about other things. So things like blueberries, actually, sometimes they don't have a lot of flavor. I guess they don't.
No, they don't work. No. They just do not work. And attached to that, if I was going to develop a business around it, I wanted to be able to be really truthful with the person who buys the bottle. That if they are buying an apple crisp, I know that what's in that is apples. There's no artificial flavorings. It's just apples and bacteria.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah.
And
I have to say, actually, that I don't endorse anything, and the only reason that I feel so comfortable talking about this product to people that follow me, to people that I work with and that I help support, is because of those ethical values that you have, Will, and that the product, as you say, it's not out there to con. It's not a bigger company looking at their portfolio and saying, oh, this seems to be catching on in the market. We need to produce something that will tick most of the boxes. There's such a genuine passion in you to bring something which is as 100% sound, nutritionally, health-wise, ethically, production-wise, as you can possibly make.
And what I was doing was that through a good cross-section of friends and colleagues, I had quite a few guinea pigs to be able to try it out on, and that there was this, to be able to keep it craft, it had to be multi-small batch instead of big vats, and you've seen the fermentary which we've got.
Yeah.
But every bottle is actually a labor of love. We make it, we fill it, we test it, we carbonate it, we label it, we send it out, and there is actually a passion within that. But as I started to read more and understand more about the market, is that you will then get both milk kefirs and water kefirs and yogurts, and they will then say, oh, this has actually got so many tens of billions of bacteria in it. And that is copied right across the industry. But it's not about the numbers, it's actually about the potency. And so we started with lots of microscopes, and we started to look at the actual potency and the effect. and actually doing things to the process, and at the same time having an array of guinea pigs who said, whoa, I can really feel the difference of that. Whoa, I can drink, so will you please drink this before breakfast? Whoa. Oh, will you please drink this before bed? Whoa. And we just pooled all the results which we actually got. And it was very interesting and it was extremely rewarding. But to me, to get that potency, you've got to almost mimic what goes on within your body. So if you imagine that if we take the market leaders, of which they're all in little shop bottles and people buy them by the thousands, is that your stomach has got an acidity of anywhere between 1.5 and 2, which means that literally the hydrochloric acid which exists in your stomach is that if you take some of it and put it on your face, it'll take your skin off. Now, it's there for a reason, because 1 billion years of evolution has actually then said this stomach's got to do a job. Besides squirting in a few enzymes and crunching all your food up, we've got to make sure that any bad bacteria are killed off. And so that's what your stomach has evolved to do. So put a little shot into your stomach and it'll go, easy job. And so everything's just killed off. If you then flush your stomach through with a wonderful strawberry kefir, then it'll flush your stomach through and it'll get it into the small intestine and then into the colon, where the real powerhouse of your digestive system is.
Because of that volume. So we're looking at sort of 200 ml plus then, are we? Or more than that? Or
a small bottle is 330.
330.
We would suggest drinking a small bottle or half a large bottle probably every other day.
Okay.
Or if there's 2 of you in a family, share a bottle between the 2 of you over breakfast.
Yeah.
The best time is to drink a bottle of Tibico is either with breakfast on the morning, preferably with a high fiber breakfast. Oats, overnight oats are just fantastic. Those types of foods, or a couple of hours after you've actually eaten on an evening, after you've had your dinner, so that the stomach acidity has actually then just passivated a little bit, and the bacteria can go to work during the night in your body to reinforce what you've got. Or if you have an environment of lots of bad bacteria, then you might find World War III going on for a little period of time as they then start to take off. But the product itself and the industry is so much in its infancy, and that what we therefore did was that, and there's a little bit of trade secrets here, so got to be very careful what I say.
Be very careful. Yes.
So we developed a process by which, from the minute we mix it all together, we then create an anaerobic environment, and we pump, we mix, and we do everything within the process by utilizing compressed carbon dioxide, food grade. By doing that, we keep air completely excluded from the second we start the process to 10 days later, when it then goes into storage and is available for sale. By doing that, we then really push the fact that what we are doing is creating a drink of which the bacteria are in there, the lactobacilluses and the bifidobacterium predominantly, can only, or they are at their most potent when they're in an anaerobic environment. Your stomach and your gut is an anaerobic.
Anaerobic, yes.
So don't create lots of aerobes and lots of mechanical stirring, and is that we do it in a very different way. And we as a small business at this moment in time can't necessarily afford to be able to going into large-term clinical trials. But at the same token, we can only respond to the feedback which we actually get from our customers. If I just read something that somebody, if I can find it, somebody put on our Trustpilot the other day. I can just go down.
Well, you have, I think, you know, you have the most amazing reviews.
Yeah, this lady, another 5-star rating. She said, "This stuff has just changed my life. I've suffered from tummy problems and bloating for a very long time. Since drinking Tibico, I can honestly say that I no longer suffer from any tummy problems or indigestion problems. And for years, I can comfortably wear my jeans." Yeah.
Yes.
When I read that, it brings tears to my eyes.
Yes.
It's just saying, I've changed somebody's life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's where you and I suppose have something in common, because, as you know, this is a second career for me.
Yes.
That I started out of my own personal experience, and it is, and just to feel that you've shifted somebody's well-being from something that is really uncomfortable for them to something that is much more comfortable. It means that they can live a better life. Just it gives you the most incredible reward and satisfaction. And it's that classic meaning of life, isn't it? You know, it is. It just gives you so much purpose. And we've had conversations about how improving gut health and drinking your product, how it can actually help manage cravings, and I've also given it to a family member who's had acid reflux for about the last 5 years, and it's really calming it down. I mean, it's early days.
That's really good.
Really working. But also quite a lot of my clients like a drink in the evening, and of course if they're managing their weight just on very basic terms, that's an extra 100, 2, 3, 4, depending on how many drinks they have, 100 calories extra a day that is empty nutritionally, and also has an impact that we all know that when we've had 1 or 2 drinks, the inhibition goes, and oh yes, I'll sort of eat this, and we also get the munchies because the blood glucose drops. And so I talk to them a lot about finding something alternative which is going to feel special, because, you know, alcohol has that sort of special social feel about it, doesn't it? But something that feels special, tastes really good, but also they can have something that helps also build their gut health and might eradicate other things that are going on. I mean, it's a triple, quadruple win for them.
I think that again, you know, we as a human race, we are so driven by the power and the influence of the drugs companies and the food companies. Bottom line, nobody can really argue against it. The food companies want you to eat as much rubbish as fast as possible, and the drug companies want you to get ill but not die. And behind that, we've got a National Health Service there, which between 50 and 60% of its overall budget is actually being spent on type 2 diabetes or obese related illnesses. And we can't just keep feeding it with money. We've got to actually start to deal with the cause.
We have to, absolutely. We have to get to that root cause, and because it's under so much strain. There's that, and also nobody wants to live with type 2 diabetes. I've seen it, I've experienced it firsthand in my own family, and there's so much that we can do to actually prevent that happening.
Completely. But then the media, together with the medical profession, has got to, together with the science and together with medical teaching, has actually got to teach people what they are made of. We all think we're just this complete human being, Homo sapien, which is just, you know, eternally fantastic. We're not. We're 90% bacteria.
Yes.
And
that needs nurturing, doesn't it?
And those have got to be looked after. You look after them, they will look after you. Now, there was if you go back to the year 2000, the science industry was all waiting with bated breath for the results of what was the Genome Project.
Yes. And
they were analyzing the genes and the genetic makeup of lots of different species, human beings in all. And they came up with a grain of rice had 30,000 genes, a worm had 20,000 genes, a mouse had 23,000 genes. And people were virtually taking bets. And those bets were, so if a mouse is 23,000 genes, what do you think the human's going to actually work out to be? And people were then saying, oh, it must be 500,000, it must be 150,000, it's got to be far more than a mouse. The Genome Project confirmed that that Homo sapien, the gene content was 21,000. We've actually got less genes in our body than a mouse or half a grain of rice. What we have, however, is 4.5 million genes, which are all bacterial driven.
Right.
That's scary.
It's, yes, it is. It is. We're just going to let that land for a minute, I think. Yes, exactly. Wow.
It's just scary.
Yeah. And
so after the Human Genome Project, there was then the microbiome genome project, which then really was kept very quiet, and it wasn't really publicized heavily because the food companies didn't really want to see the benefits of it. But this is what was actually being shown, that where you may even say to your clients, and nutritionists may say to their clients, it's all about colorful eating. Eat colors, but lots of colors on
the rainbow. I have been quoted, yes.
Exactly. And then they say, you are what you eat. So if you're good, then you'll be good. And if you eat bad, you're not going to be so good after all. We should actually change that phrase to say, you should eat what bacteria like.
Oh, I like it. Right. Okay. Understood. I am educated now.
So the things that you should actually be eating are the things which actually bacteria flourish on. I was talking just before we came on air, and to a woman who phoned me, and she just said, yeah, I've got your drinks. They're making a huge difference to both myself with acid reflux, and lots of gut ailments, but also to my husband, who's got an inflamed prostate, and he can actually feel the difference. When is the best time to actually drink it?
Yeah.
But then the conversation was more about what type of food should I eat to be able to create an environment in which the bacteria can flourish. Which he said, get as many porridge oats down you as you possibly can, because the bacteria in your gut are they are virtually responsible for the breakdown and the release of most energy in the body from fiber and from these products. And so yes, it's a balance.
It's about the fiber, it's about the probiotics, the prebiotics, and
it is.
Yes. And also a reduction in sugar, if I understand, because that has an impact. And also alcohol.
Yes.
Negative impact, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
also,
is.
of course, if we get prescribed antibiotics, then
That's even worse.
killing them in
I
a
just
pill,
kills,
isn't it? Yeah.
You know, the word antibiotic
That's
means
a clue. Yes.
life, and
Yeah.
probiotic means for life.
Yes.
So get as many probiotics down you as you possibly can.
So then, I mean, it's just really quite mind-blowing, and thank heavens that people are now talking a lot more about gut health. You know, it is out there, but it is understanding it accurately, isn't it? You know, it's about really understanding what's important and the difference between different things that we can take, that we can drink, and that we can eat that will support our health, and that we eat what bacteria like, and drink what bacteria like. And so coming then full circle to how people can get hold of this fantastic drink that you produce, which I think, if I remember, we've got wild berry, we've got raspberry, we've got rhubarb, which is my favorite, we've got strawberry, we've got ginger and turmeric, and we've got
the wild berry. And I've got a bone to pick with one of your friends and clients.
Oh, have you?
Is that I don't know how one person can just clear us out of stock completely. She's just ordered 36 bottles.
I'll tell you why. Because we're recording this in October, she's doing dry October. That's why.
Right.
So you are her Malbec substitute.
She's had 3 deliveries in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, well, you see, work catches on. What can I say? Yes. So then, at the moment, you're distributing in the UK only at the moment, but all over the UK. And thank you so much. You're very kindly giving my viewers and listeners a promotional code. So I know that you have all sorts of offers on the website from time to time anyway, but whatever you have running, if they use the code LORI, just LORI, they will get another 10% on top promotionally of whatever you might be running at that time.
Correct. Additionally to that is that if they register on the website, so that they'll get our blogs, health blogs, they'll get our emails, is that they will also automatically get some points given to them as coupons. So we have a loyalty scheme, so that with every with every pound spent, you get a certain amount of loyalty points. And then when you then go through to checkout, you can then redeem those points. So there's some good discounts to be had.
Fantastic. So just making it as easy as possible to improve our gut health and just be healthier and live longer and have a lovely drink at the same time. I mean, it's just fabulous. I'm so happy that I met you, you know, that we bumped into each other by accident.
It's important to say, what's that one? That's the rhubarb and hibiscus.
Oh, yes.
That Tibico as a drink is potent, but it's not a silver bullet. It's not, you're not just going to go and drink it and then all of a sudden feel as though you're going to be fantastic the next day. We have had people who have said, I've had really, really bad, even doctors who said, I've really had acid reflux for years and years and years, and literally the next day I felt better. But it's not a silver bullet, because whilst you're eating processed foods, while you're eating pizzas and pastas, is that this is readily available sugar. And so between the stomach and the small intestine, most of that medium, that product, potatoes, mashed potato, those types of things, most of it will actually have been digested by the body. And so the bacteria, which are really responsible for running your body, are all sat in the colon going, God, nothing's come down here.
I'm really bored.
Exactly.
Give me some lentils.
I've got nothing to do. I've got no fiber to work on, so might as well just give up. But then what then happens is you've then got the bad bacteria that then start to take over, and they will then start to secrete hormones into your blood system, which will then say, we want more sugar. We don't want fiber. We need sugar.
Exactly.
They will then create a craving to the brain, of which your brain will then say, I need more sugar. I need sugar. It's not you wanting the sugar. It's the bacteria in your body wanting the sugar.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for explaining that in a scientific way, because I'm saying all the time, this is a physiological craving. This is coming from inside of you because of what you're eating, because of the diet that you have. So that's why we have to overhaul that to actually get the body working better, so that it's not telling your brain that it wants something that actually it doesn't need at all. So yes, we are on the same page.
Science has now proved there's the vagus nerve, which comes from the brain to the gut. Everybody assumed since time immemorial that your brain just controls everything. Well, they've now found that the majority of electrical stimuli that then this now goes from the gut to the brain. So the bacteria in your gut are telling your brain what you should be doing most of the time.
Yeah,
that's a bit scary.
It is scary, and it's also quite, you know, it does take a while for you to get your head around it, but of course that's why there is this link between gut health and mental health, because of that very, very important nerve that's carrying all those messages and prompts from way down. It seems so unrelated, doesn't it?
Yes.
Geographically, it seems so unrelated, but yes, as you say, we do know now that there's a direct connection.
But I'm very, very pleased. I'm very delighted by the feedback which we get. I'm very delighted by quite genuinely drinking my own drinks every day and thinking, wow, did I create?
I did that. I know, and
it really does taste good.
And if I'd met you 15 years ago and I'd said, one day you're going to be the owner and creator of a water fear health drink, you'd be like, what? No. But Will, just to sort of bring this fascinating conversation to a sort of a slow end, but to, you know, one of the most important things is of course, yes, you are producing this fantastic product which helps people, that people enjoy drinking, but also that here you are sitting here healthy, so much more healthy than you were before. I mean, that is a fantastically positive story, isn't it, in this whole thing, Will?
I mean, I am very, very pleased. I'm very pleased because I wasn't in a good place 4 years ago.
Yeah. Wonderful. Will, thank you so much for spending the time, because I know that you've got boxes and boxes waiting to be dispatched on your doorstep, because you're a kind of a two-man band, aren't you, really?
We've moved from the kitchen now to our own fermentory, which
and it's been really absolutely fascinating, and thank you so much again for the promotional advantage that you're giving people connected.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And we have on the website contact details both by telephone and by email or text, and we will, if anybody has got any concerns, any queries, no matter how much they actually then want to divulge, we are functional nutritionists. We do understand everything is in confidence, and no matter how small or large your question may be, we will answer it.
That is so kind. Thank you very, very, very much. And I will put all those details in the blurb, both on YouTube and on the podcast details, so that anyone can explore if they want to. And why wouldn't they, after hearing all this? It is a complete no-brainer. The wonderful world of Tibico. Will, thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. Bye-bye.